Hey, and welcome back to the Registered Ranching Podcast with Tucker Brown and Willie Wardle.
Wah, 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 wah.
Welcome back to the podcast room. Willie, always a pleasure to be back behind the mic with you.
Hey, the pleasure is all mine.
Living that dream. Hey, do want to thank our sponsors in Ranch Fuel. Cracking cold ones, baby. No, it's not a cold one. It is a cold one.
Ranch Fuel. It is a cold one.
Get you a Ranch Fuel. Natural caffeine. Only 15 calories.
No artificial colors. Zero sugar. Real cowboy energy.
RCE. Real Cowboy Energy.
RCE, baby.
Welcome back to the Registered Ranching Podcast. Hey, we're with you today with a very wise guest. And one that, gosh, these friends that I love to meet within the industry because I can always know the time we met. It's not like one of the ones you've known forever, but the ones that you met and then decided to keep in touch with. And so, Dr. Russell Carrell comes with us. He's a beef technical services specialist with Carrell Animal Nutrition. Russell, welcome to the podcast, man.
Thanks for having me, Tucker. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hey, even the crowd.
Even the crowd loves it.
Yeah. Well, so we met. You actually remembered the first time more than I did because I'm terrible at remembering everybody I meet at conventions.
Yes.
But we met at Beef Cattle Short Course, right?
That is correct. I sat and waited for 20 minutes while you talked to some girl, and I sat there and felt like the biggest idiot.
She was wondering about bulls, dude. I don't know.
Well, that was before we were married, so I'll let it slip. I mean, I know now that you were talking business.
Yeah.
At the time, I wanted to not
You're
like
like,
you.
oh, it's because she's a girl, huh? Is that why you talked to her? No, but we met there, and then really, I guess the next time we met would have been at TCU, right?
That's right.
TCU Ranch Management. You and I got to sit by each other for 2 semesters.
That's right.
You had to put up with me,
up
dude.
on the front row, first day.
Yeah. Holy cow. You, me, and Gingerbird.
Yeah, it's quite a crew up there.
It was. So, but again, that's what I like about the cattle industry. You always have the people, being from small town, you're friends with everybody because you have to. And then you get to meet these people within the industry that you get to decide whether you keep in touch with or not, that you do business with or not, that you have on the podcast or not. And so, it's cool, Russell. You're not exactly living close to here. So thanks for making the trip to T-Town today, too.
You got to love Throckmorton, Texas.
Yeah. Look at you, right in downtown.
Right in the middle of downtown. And, we talked about it's the coolest building in town. And we have a lot to pick from here. So we got real prime real estate right across the street from the Allsups. So
Very cosmopolitan.
What a view.
What a view.
You
Russell,
can see it.
Yeah. So today, we got to spend a little bit of time. You showed us, and we'll talk about it later, but showed us some really pretty cool new technology that you brought with you. But, oh gosh, this is, your third time being here since you've been with Cargill?
That's right. Yeah, this will be my third visit.
Third time. But the cool thing about having people that you can call, like specialists like you, Russell, is that I don't have to know all the stuff. And I'm not going to know all the stuff. But I don't have to know all the things about crude protein or my total mixed ration. I don't have to know all the specialty needs that my cows need when it comes to nutrition. Because when somebody says, what do they need? I'm like, hang on, let me call Dr. Carrell.
Right.
And that's valuable, man. I don't have to know those things.
So kind of my counter to that is that I am very happy to be hyper focused on something like nutrition because I don't, I'm really obsessed with what I do. But, I think the same could be said for y'all, and that y'all have to be so versatile on the ranch and really be able to do a lot of different things very well. The term gets used a lot, jack of all trades, master of none, but really you've got to be pretty handy at a lot of things on a ranch. And so for us to be able to come in and just provide the insight from our experiences and our knowledge and use all that special training that we got as nutritionists to help people. it makes my job a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So it's
And you get to do quite a bit of traveling too. I bet it's neat seeing all the different businesses.
I see a lot of country. So a little bit about my territory. So I'm based in East Texas, and Willie on the podcast a couple weeks ago. I'm an avid listener. You said that you got to go to East Texas when you got to go to Bryan, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes,
You
sir.
did not go to East Texas, pal.
That is not
It's
considered East.
not East Texas, because they'll tell you it's not East Texas.
What is Bryan then?
Bryan is the land of Kool-Aid.
And of course,
Well,
that's
yeah,
of
it
Marine
is.
Kool-Aid.
C-Stat.
C-Stat.
It is
College
Kool-Aid.
Station. I've been hearing the cool kids call it C-Stat.
C-Stat,
I'm gonna
Yeah.
start saying
Well, when you get old, you just call it CS because you're too lazy to
CS.
type it all out, like to even type out C-Stat.
So what's considered East Texas? Is Tyler's considered East Texas?
I would consider east of I-45. East of
45,
I-45.
not 35.
No.
Not
East of
35.
45.
East of 45 is
Oh.
where you, and it's like there's this old movie and talk about life behind the pine curtain. When people start talking in cursive, that's you've made it. Okay.
That's a pretty good description.
So yeah, when people start talking like this, that's you've made
found
it.
it.
Pal. You found it.
A little bit of Alabama in there too.
Well, no, Alabama's a little more southern, you know.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah,
So
that was good.
That was good. Well, you lived there for 3 years. You learn how to fit in. But a little bit about my territory. So I'm based out of Lindale, Texas, kind of northeast Texas. Grew up in Nacogdoches, Texas, and really I go where there's cows. So I spend a lot of time in Texas, a little bit in Louisiana. Those are some of my favorite people to go visit and see. We eat real good down there.
Yeah.
Coming down today, came down from Southwest Oklahoma, seeing some customers and doing some ingredient sampling and starting to talk about total mixed rations and what those diets need to look like for the next year. Getting into bull sales. It's coming into summer, but bull sales are right around the corner. So spending a lot of time with my customers that I'm doing bull development work with and figuring out, okay, are these bulls going to look like what they need to come October? But like I said, spend a lot of time in the Southwest, get up into the Dakotas, which is a really fun experience because you might as well put me on that airplane to Rapid City, South Dakota. You might as well put me on a space shuttle to Mars.
Yeah.
It's
a little different.
It's different up there.
Yeah.
But get to spend some time in the Dakotas and Wyoming and Montana. And do a little bit of work for some people in Nebraska, but that's mostly over the phone and on the computer. But yeah, spend a lot of time behind the wheel of a truck, listen to a lot of podcasts, try to see some country, meet a lot of really neat people. I think that's the best part of my job is the people I get to interact with. You talked about the people you choose to keep around, and I'm very blessed that a lot of people choose to keep me around.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of really good business relationships, but through the years between undergraduate and grad school and now my job have really made a lot of friends.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the really neat things about our industry is, I got a friend anywhere.
Right.
I'll give you an example of I had a buddy, my friend in Ennis, my friend Joe Chaddick in Ennis called me one day, and he called me. He's like, man, he's like, I don't know if you'll be able to help me. He's like, but I got a hired guy coming down from Montana that broke down outside of Wichita, Kansas. Do you know anybody that can go help him? Yeah, I do. Hold on. I make 2 phone calls, and a friend of a friend goes and picks up a stranger and gets him down, and it helps get him down here.
That's cool.
And I think that is just the strength of our community and of our industry. So it's a lot of fun to get to go do. I love that I get to call what I do work. You ask my wife will tell you I don't have a real job. She's a veterinarian, so she works.
Forgot about that.
She works real hard.
Yeah.
And I get to go drive
to go
around
play.
and play and run my mouth. So,
That's living the dream, dude.
dude,
That's what we say.
yeah,
We're like, dude, we
can't
get.
beat it.
We were just talking about that right before you pulled up.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that.
We're like, yeah, dude. Somebody wants to. Wait, I can make a living talking about the things I love. Yeah, I'm in. I can make videos about it.
I do it for free, but don't tell Cargill that.
Yeah. So did you? One thing I always love to talk about. I get so many questions, comments, emails about people wanting in our industry and in our generation. Whether it's the Yellowstone effect, whether it's COVID that just got people interested in their food and in our lifestyle, or whatever it is. There's a large push of young people. I'll say pretty much 40 and younger in ranching.
Yeah.
40 and under would be considered 39 and younger. I'll say 39 and younger would be considered like that younger ranching generation or younger generation of wanting back into this industry that they've been separated from.
Regardless of what age, it's just first generation ranchers.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
great description.
First generation ranchers.
And so you grew up in East Texas and you've gone to 3 different schools. Was it 3 or 4? 3.
Graduated from 4.
Graduated from 4 different schools.
I went to 6.
Yeah. But what it wasn't overnight. It's not like you were born into it.
No. So a little background. Both of my parents are educators.
Yeah.
My mom has taught 5th grade math at Garrison Elementary School since 2005 when I was in 5th grade. And she's been there ever since. My dad, when I was a kid growing up, he originally was a high school coach and a high school principal, but spent most of my youth and childhood running and managing as the managing partner of our family sawmill. Recently, he's gotten back into education and actually works for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice as a principal for multiple prison units, schools in East Texas. So both my parents are educators. I come from, I come from agriculture, especially in the forestry end, but definitely not beef ranching. I grew up on a 70-acre it's my great-grandfather's dairy farm. It's 70 acres, and we grew watermelons on it as a kid. And I swear it was just because my dad wanted my brother and I so tired that we couldn't get in trouble.
Yeah.
But
yeah. What is it? Idle hands or playground for the devil?
there was no idle.
Yeah, I always hear that. He won't have idle hands on my watch, boy.
They can't get in trouble if they're not awake.
Yeah.
'Cause if we had free time, we were asleep. But, did that. And like a lot of kids, got involved with FFA and was super, super active in FFA.
Yeah.
Really just involved in general. Was big time athlete in high school and really loved sports and was super competitive, very involved in FFA. But other than the show heifers that we kept, I didn't know anything about cows and really just you talk about stumble into something. I just blindly stumbled into what I'm doing today. And I think it's just because, my dad always told me, son, the good Lord looks after little kids and idiots. And I think the good Lord's looked after me. I'm no little kid anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm blessed to be here. And I think that as far as getting in, getting in is not hard, but it is going to require some work.
Yeah.
So for me, kind of how I got started is like a lot of kids when they graduate high school and they go to college and they're interested in animals, they go, I want to be a veterinarian. Well, so what I did is I went and I offered and I shadowed for free and scooped poop and cleaned kennels and just pushed cattle behind the chute and went on vet calls for free with a veterinarian.
Yeah.
As an 18-year-old kid, and then
Was that a veterinarian you knew?
it was just our local veterinarian, and they were just kind enough to let me come in and shadow.
Yeah.
And so I would come in and shadow half a day, and then because they saw that I wasn't a total liability to the business, whenever I got old enough to get a job, they hired me part-time. And so part-time I worked at the clinic doing cow and horse, helping, as the large animal technician. The other half time I was put in a hayfield. Knew nothing, never cut hay in my life, never done any of that. And they said, well, you're going to do this too. So did that. Ended up at Texas A&M, majoring in animal science, worked at the vet school there. And boy, when I worked at the vet school, that's where I figured out that vet school was not for me. So went to worked at the vet school and did that. And again, just kind of stumbled into day working at 44 Farms of all places. When you get asked, you're like, hey, you want to come day work at 44 Farms on a clipping and torching crew? Sure. They're like, they pay $200 a day. It could have been some sketchy places, and I'd have gone because I needed that $200 a day. And little did I know that I was going to one of the most, well-established places in the country.
Yeah.
And went and just worked really hard for them.
And I think it's cool that it wasn't the branding. It wasn't gathering. It wasn't working cows.
It was clipping.
Yeah, you jumped in on the clipping.
Clipping. Yeah, I was clipping bulls and loved every minute of it, and got asked to go take some bulls to a sale in Fort Worth. Take some bulls and some heifers to a sale in Fort Worth. And I remember being in that barn and being there at 4 a.m. because there's one chute to get cattle ready at,
Ooh.
and for everyone there to use. And so I was there at 4 a.m. before the guy managing me, and it really shocked him. So long story short, I used that to just kind of just set myself up to go from working there to then at that same sale, I ran into a family friend of mine, Monty Ethington, who was owner of Fairway Farms Angus. And he said, "Why are you working for them? Come work for me." He's like, "Come, when you come home summer, come work for me." And so I started going to work for him. And, he has always given me opportunities and pushed me and really been a big kind of supporter of me. And long story short, he's cut me and my brother in as junior partners with him now.
Nice.
So we own a handful of Angus cows.
Yeah.
And that's really, really neat for us.
Dang right.
To go somewhere that we both worked on in college, and the owner said, we want you to be part of this. So we're really excited to be a part of that. But Tyler was on here a couple months ago, and he said, you just got to go ask.
Yeah.
And I think the challenging thing for people wanting to get in is just knowing where to go, where to go ask. That's
Yes.
a big thing. And
that's why I think that's why people on social media get asked the most, because that's where they see it the most.
Exactly.
Because they don't see it in town. They don't see it at Walmart.
If that's your only exposure to it, where else do you have to go?
Right.
I was talking to one of y'all's interns today, Cade, and one of the things I love coming about out here is I don't have to worry about if the interns out here are good kids. Y'all vet them pretty hard, and so I know that I can talk to them and I can interact with them and joke with them a little bit and have fun. But I asked Cade, what are you doing next? Well, I'm going back to College Station and I'm trying to get a job at Beef Center. I know the manager at the Beef Center. He's a guy I met when I was in grad school at Auburn. I'll just give you his phone. I'll just call him.
Yeah.
And that's how it works.
You dang right.
That's pretty cool.
Someone it's a bad thing, but it's always kind of used in a bad connotation when I was growing up, but it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Right.
And
but it's so true.
You got to leverage that.
Yeah. And what do we say, Willie? Network.
Net worth is your network.
Yeah.
That's actually Morgan Ruggles' quote.
And the more we talk to people, the more we are finding that to be true. Yeah. Shout out Morgan Ruggles for that, because that's so powerful. Of your net worth, your network is so powerful. That can get you in the door. The rest is up to you. You can screw it up and get out of there, but that's your chance. That's what got you a chance, and that's what is going to help Cade get a chance. Right?
Well, and it will. And you and I have had some conversations where the network didn't do anyone any favors.
Right.
So I would just tell people to be mindful of that. You need
the right network.
The right network, but you need to be careful with how you interact with people, and remember that the world's small.
They know, yeah.
No, that's a good point. Yeah.
It's small, and so I try to think about that. We joked a lot. I'll tell you, Tucker knows. Willie. I am grouchy. I am not like when we were at TCU. Most of our classmates did not care to be around me, and a lot of it was just I didn't handle the stress super well, and so I just was really short with people.
Sir.
And so I think there's some hiccups I've made with my network.
Yes, sir.
That boy, I'd sure love to go and mend those fences.
Sure,
but.
From 8 years ago.
Yeah. People don't forget.
Yeah.
People do not forget. So, my tip is just go talk to people. Go to the sale barn.
Yeah.
Go to the sale barn. Go to cattlemen's conventions. Ask for business cards. Hand out business cards. We're all out here, and the thing that I really appreciate about our industry is there's crooks everywhere, but the concentration of them in the beef industry is not real big. So most people are out looking to help each other. One of my things that I would tell, kind of my comment is, I do get kind of short with the whole like Yellowstone thing.
Yeah.
I love Yellowstone. It's a great show. I mean, it's super fun, super cool, but people say that there's gatekeeping into the ag industry and into the beef industry. And my only comment on that is if we want you here, we are very happy for someone to be involved, but please learn and respect kind of the traditions of it, and know that there was a long road of people way tougher than us that paved it.
And I think it's true. I mean, you worked how many years to get to where you are now?
I did 10 years in college.
Right.
That was something.
Right. And then those days of clipping and those days of hauling and
Well,
the days of working with the Galloways, the
belted Galloways, yeah.
So like you've done all of these things to get you where you are, and I think that's what a lot of the people coming into the industry maybe don't understand yet, is that they're like, well, I want to go do a Brandon. It's like, well, I want to go do a Brandon.
So it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that. I got to my friend Joe that I was telling you about. He manages an outfit called Graft Farms, and it's owned by a gentleman named Aaron Graft out of Dallas. And we have had 2 brandings this spring, and both times he has brought out these high school boys from Highland Park. And when I say frat-tastic,
Frat daddies, baby.
frat-tastic, buddy.
Yeah, if you don't know Highland Park, that's like from what I understand, just like the wealthiest neighborhood in Dallas. Would that be?
And there's a lot of negative connotations that come with that.
Yeah.
And so these guys come out and they start, and I look around, and I'm in my whole outfit, my whole garb, right?
Yeah.
I have on the hat, I have on the shirt with the button unbuttoned, I have on my leggings, and I'm chinking around everywhere I go with my spurs, and I am Mr. Cowboy. And these high school kids come out, and my buddy says, "Hey, you're going to coach these kids how to wrestle calves." Great. Those boys worked harder than any group of young men I've ever been around.
That's cool.
And they were so excited to be out there and to learn. Now, I yelled, grab his tail, more times than I can remember, because they were so intent on just wrestling that calf instead of just pulling his tail down.
Yeah.
But, I mean, just a group of young men that just wanted to be out there and learn. And every one of them, it was the funniest thing. Everyone was like, "Can you take a picture of it so I can show my mom?" And it was a ball. I mean, and we needed the help. My gosh, it was a lot of fun. It made it fun because we weren't killing ourselves. And we had those guys that wanted to be out there and wanted to learn. And that's all it takes. Just want to learn. Ask questions.
And it's hard, these the generation that's running the ranches right now, average age 60 something.
Yeah.
And they grew up with people who grew up in the ag industry, and now they're trying to find help in a labor force that's been separated for 2 to 3 generations.
That's right.
And so no wonder it's frustrating for them. No wonder they're a little short with trying to find help, right? Looking at it from their perspective. But it is like you gotta ask way more than one person.
Yeah.
To find that opportunity that those guys from Highland Park got, like you got to ask more than one person.
That's right.
And I just feel like the feed yards are always needing help.
And you will. I'm a big believer in, and I can elaborate if anyone wants me to. I'm a big believer in going and doing something and going, this ain't it.
Hey, for me,
you learn way more from that experience than you do going and branding calves and being cool and like the fun stuff, the cool stuff. Like you get a lot more out of going and torching calves and going, oh man, this ain't it. You really find out a lot more about who you are when
doing something,
when you go
finishing the job you don't like.
Yeah, when you go do something you don't like, and I don't care who you are, what your title is, what letters you got behind your name. We've all failed.
Oh yeah,
something. And I think my failures, the things that made me go, that didn't work.
What do you think saying this in a positive way, what failure do you think was the main thing that got you to where you are now? Like if you wouldn't have failed at this, you wouldn't have gotten to where you are now.
So glad you asked that. I want us to go back to 2017, right after we finished TCU Ranch Management.
Okay.
We graduated, and I took a job at a ranch that I thought was my dream job.
Uh-huh.
I got there, and I worked a month, and I just looked at my boss and said, I can't do this anymore. I'm like, I can't work here. Like, I can't work for you people.
Huh.
And it was, I mean, I felt like an absolute failure. I gave them my 2 weeks notice, and they're like, how quick can you get out of the house? I'm like, I'll be out tomorrow. Moved back in with my parents, went back to day working. Didn't know if I wanted to work with beef cattle ever again.
Wow. Kind of put you down, huh?
I was, I mean, it was rock bottom for me.
Yeah.
I know that, in perspective that that's not that big
Maybe
of
not a life rock bottom.
It's not a life rock bottom, but
Sure.
that was a real low point for me, and that that failure put me on the trajectory to be doing something today that I love,
Yeah.
and to reach things that I never expected of myself, didn't believe I could do. And so kind of we don't have to spend a ton of time on it, but a little bit of detail about that is I left that job, convinced my parents to let me move back in with them. Kind of told them, like, hey, like, I'm leaving. Like, you don't have to let me back in, but I'm not staying here.
Yeah.
And moved back in with my parents on a Tuesday. That Friday, I became single again. That was fun.
That's kind of all at once.
It was all at once. Became single and went back to day working. And was working at Fairway and just hauling cattle and hauling equipment and doing fence work and nothing fun. And came home and was unsaddling my horse in the barn one day, and my parents came out to the barn and like, we want to talk to you. I'm like, sure, what's up? And I'd interviewed for a couple ag teaching jobs because I didn't know what I was going to do.
Uh-huh.
And they said, we don't want you to take those jobs. We know you got offered those jobs. We don't want you to take those jobs. I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? Well, we want you to go to grad school. And I'm like, are you for real? I'm like, have you seen my grades? Because I'll tell the audience. When I was my academic pedigree is I did my undergrad at Texas A&M, went to the TCU Ranch Management program, did a master's at Tarleton State and a PhD at Auburn University in Auburn, Alabama. But while I was at Texas A&M, I sure had a lot of fun. I was very social, had a very large network.
That's a pretty good way to put all of those things.
Yeah. Like I had a lot of fun.
It sounded so positive.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Spent a few days working dominoes, counting dominoes at the chicken.
My thing was hustling pool.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I was
that was good.
I was a
Good.
pool hustler. So hustled some pool, ate some Tijuana fries,
Mm-hmm.
had a good time.
Yeah.
But anyway, so went to TCU, somehow got into TCU, got my head on straight a little bit, but all in all, kind of knew that like that was going to be it.
Mm-hmm.
Went home and my parents said, we want you to we think you need to go to grad school. I'm like, okay, I'll try. And my brother at the time was playing football at Tarleton State. And it's kind of arrogant of me to think this. I was like, let's Tarleton State. I can get into grad school at Tarleton State. And so I applied, and
I kind of spoke in cursive there.
Yeah, I mean, I am from behind the pine curtain. And so kind of arrogantly just said, I can get into Tarleton State. It's Tarleton State. I went to A&M. Look at me.
Yeah.
And showed up to, you remember we were in school and they told us, we were at TCU, and they said, when you interview for a job or like you go to the bank, you need to have your management plan with you.
Yeah.
Well, I took my management plan to meet with the department head at Tarleton State, and he looked at it and threw it in the floor. He's like, I don't care about that. He's like, this ain't TCU Ranch Management. And Frank Owsley's department head, extremely great mentor of mine today, he looked at my grades and he goes, why in the hell should I let you in grad school? Dr. Owsley, I know that my grades aren't great. I'm like, look, I went through that ranch management program. I've already failed since then. Like, I am going to make someone look really, really good.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, I'm going to make someone look really good. And he looked at my transcripts, and I'd made 1A in all of my core animal science classes at Texas A&M. It was Dr. Sanders' animal breeding class. I made an A because his class was so super straightforward, and because he expected so much out of us, and so he pushed me. And so he said, well, you made an A in Dr. Sanders' class, so you're smart enough to be here. And so put me in and got put in a Master's of Reproductive Physiology program, actually, of all things, and did 2 years there. But had decided that I was done with grad school. I'm like, nope, can't do this. Don't want to. And got told, hey, there's a professor at Auburn University is interested in speaking with you. I'm like, about what? I'm like, I don't want to go do a PhD. I'm like, I'm done. I want to get a job. Like, I want to live my life. And she convinced me. She's like, hey, like, I'll pay for your trip. I'll pay for your flight out here. I'll pick you up at the airport. You won't have to pay for anything. Like, just come visit. Come see what it's like. And I went and visited, and I got back, and God just spoke to me, and I just decided like, hey, I'm gonna go do that. And so
War Eagle.
War Eagle, you know, and went and spent 3 years at Auburn, Alabama. And again, it's just stumbling into stuff. I said, I'm never going to do this. I stumbled into stumbled into grad school, stumbled into a PhD. When I got there, talking about the Belty Ranch, got set up with a guy that had a farm 20 minutes from campus. And he had 25 belted Galloway cows, and he had no idea how to take care of them, had no one to take care of them, and had a house on the property, but had another employee living in the house. And so I was like, well, you know, like I can't, like that's not going to work. And when I was coming to visit, he's like, no, come to the farm and visit me. Okay. And I get there, and he had built a horse pen for me without me committing to anything. He had built my horse like a nice wooden fence pen right outside the barn. And he walked me in the barn. He's like, your apartment's going to be right there. Sir, it is March, and I am moving here in May. He's like, it'll be ready. He's like, it'll be ready. You come here, take care of my cows, cut hay, and you can live here as long as you want. And so I moved there. The apartment wasn't quite ready, so I lived in the kitchen for a couple weeks and roughed it, but it was still fun. It's still nice, and lived in a 2-room apartment and did not pay rent for 3 years, thanks to Pat McCarty and the Belty Galloways. The Belty Ranch, as I called it. And I don't post a whole lot on Instagram, but if you find me on Instagram, you'll find a lot of Belty content because it was fun. And so, lucked into that. Again, stumbled my way through 3 years of a PhD and got this job with Carrell on a really neat opportunity. I was originally supposed to live in Tennessee, and again, just kept stumbling my way through life. And they came to Auburn and said, "Hey, we want to take you to dinner." And came to dinner and sat me down. They're like, "So where do you want to live?" I'm like, "Oh, you know, we're gonna live here in Tennessee." Blah blah. And they're like, "No. Like, where do you want to live?" Texas. I want to live in Texas. Well, where in Texas? East Texas. Okay, we'll make that happen. And that was the conversation.
Nice.
So you don't have to be smart. You just have to be. I say you got to be resilient.
Willing.
You got to be resilient. You got to be willing to do some stuff that is not fun.
Yeah.
We all have done stuff that's not fun. I have spent more time walking around a 30-acre field, throwing a hoop and cutting grass than any adult should. But I did it because it's you know, you hear a lot of people talking about delayed gratification. And I think that in our industry, it's as important in our industry as it is any. You've got to be willing to put in some effort for some delayed gratification. It just makes the branding that much more fun. It just makes going to the ranch rodeo that much fun. You know. So
no, I agree.
So that's a little bit just I don't know my path and coming from that low point where I was unemployed, living with my parents, trying to get into grad school. Was arrogant and thought because it wasn't Texas A&M that I could just get in without any effort and wouldn't have to try when I was there. And then, again, finally decided to grow up a little bit.
Right.
And
we all need a little bit of that.
Yeah, everyone's got to grow up. And that's the fun part is, man, you're going to stub your toe. You're going to trip and fall. And you just got to get up. Just get up, keep going. And thankfully.
That's why I think it's so – that's why I don't think there is a gatekeeping issue. Mm-hmm. But there is the issue is whenever they say, "Hey, I want to come help," and they're like, "Great, I need help clipping bulls," and they're like, "Oh, wait,
I don't want to do that.
I don't want to clip bulls. I want to go gather the cows."
Yeah.
Let me get up on your horse and spin them.
Yeah, let me go spin your horse real quick. But Willie, you did the same thing. Like you started chicken farming.
Yeah, that's how
to get into
ag. I was like, well, Penn State had a little beef program there, and I was a history major. I was like, nerd. Well, maybe I can try to get into. I know. I wasn't even good at that. I haven't even finished college yet, so you can see how that's going for me. But I applied to that, had no experience, and it's like, well, I'm gonna have to find somewhere else. So I went on Indeed and found that there was a chicken farm like 45 minutes across the Maryland border in Pennsylvania that was hiring, and started working there, and they had a farmhouse, and it's like, hey, you can live here rent free, just pay for the electric.
How'd you like picking up dead chickens every day?
It was not very fun. But
you did it for a year.
I did it for almost a year, mainly because the guy that I was working for was such a cool dude. Yeah. Like him and I would go deer. Like him and I got along really well. I think he's maybe 10, 12 years older than me. But like him and I just got along really well, and It was a cool experience. But yeah, definitely did not want a chicken farm the rest of my life. It made me want to get more into ranching. And Maryland, that dynamic, there's just no ranching like what I was like here. Like it's kind of you shake a feed bag and then everything will come in, and everyone has like maybe like 3 or 4 steers.
Yeah, bucket cowboys is what I call them.
Yep.
Good cowboy.
So that was pretty much like my exposure to ranching was. So
But you had to do the grind.
I did.
Right.
I had a chicken farm. I had to pick up the eggs, the rotten eggs, and
Look at this guy. I mean, this guy came home here, and Donald didn't just hand him the keys to the ranch and say, "Have fun."
yeah, which I'm sure a lot of people looking on from Instagram are probably like, "Oh, wait, your dad owns this ranch, so you just got back and got to be the boss." But
No,
knowing Donald Brown, that is not
that's not the case.
how he handles things.
No, not the case. I want to kind of change directions here, Russell. Excuse me, Dr. Carrell.
It's
Dr.
Russell.
Okay,
Doctor.
The beef industry has changed dramatically when it comes to nutrition over the last, even in a short time period, but over the span of the last 30 years has changed dramatically on how efficiently we've been able to grow cattle, finish cattle at a high quality, and be able to do that as efficiently as possible.
Right.
And so how has so many, gosh, I get it all the time. I post these beef facts about how the U.S. beef industry's got this more efficient. We're making more beef, less cows, less feed. And all I get is, it's because you fill them full of antibiotics. It's because of these hormones you're putting in them that's making it unsafe. It's like, whoa, first of all, make sure you look up the data. The data says it is safe. We're not pumping them full of antibiotics. We're treating them if they're sick. And then it's not in the beef. It's not that's not what you're eating. And then the hormones that we're putting in is a little bitty dot that goes behind the ear that adds 3 nanograms of estrogen.
That's right.
And if you eat 3 ounces of white bread, you get like 20,000 nanograms of estrogen.
That's right.
So nutrition has played a huge role. Genetics too. But what about nutrition has changed in that time period to make it so good?
I think that, and this is where I'm going to get on, the one time I'm going to get on my soapbox is I loathe getting on social media and seeing people disparage our community of scientists.
Yeah.
I am not a practicing scientist today, but the reason that we're able to get where we are in our industry is because we have some hyper intelligent and hyper curious people at our major companies, the bad guys, at these major universities.
Yep.
That are doing some really, really impressive and deep work.
Yeah.
I mean, and they
Super cool day.
They deserve the credit. I mean, we didn't get here today by just figuring it out as we went. There had to be a lot of really, really in-depth, really kind of stringent research that went into finding how do we grow these cattle with less resources.
Right.
You think about, you go back and you look at the invention of something like rumensin. Rumensin was originally, technically it is a coccidiostat.
And so for folks who may not know what rumensin is.
Sure. Rumensin is a feed additive that we use in the
which
beef
is
industry.
a quote-unquote scary word.
Scary word.
Yeah, a feed additive.
It's a
right.
feed additive. It is a safety tool that we use
Yeah.
to prevent things such as coccidiosis, which is a pretty aggressive protozoal disease.
Yep.
We use it to combat bloat,
Yep.
which is another big killer in a feed yard. And we use it to reduce methane. And that was originally used in chickens.
Wow. I didn't know that part.
Yeah, it was used in chickens. And we have come to start to use it as pretty, one of the cheapest and easiest ways to increase the feed efficiency of an animal.
Yep.
And so that didn't just happen by, Russell the rancher stumbling upon it. That came from someone at a university.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we got to give the universities credit. Now, I will come back and say that I challenge my university colleagues to, that they need to stay in touch with reality.
Staying practical.
And stay practical. But I got taught as a young scientist a long time ago that basic science and applied science are both extremely important.
Mm.
So to answer your question, how did we get there? It's a snowball effect. It's that accumulation of technology and that accumulation of management and being able to put things into practice and understand things, because a lot of it is the cattle. I mean, our producers, 10 years ago when we were in undergraduate in college, they were preaching to us that the producers needed to be more in tune with the feedback that the consumers and the packers were giving them. And I think that our producers have done a great job responding to that.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the cattle that are out in the country, and and we still have some cattle that maybe aren't as high performing, but I think that in general, our industry is it's moved forward as a whole in terms of quality. And I don't want to get into it, but I think that there's some cannibalism among animal agriculture in terms of, the social media footprint in that regard. We talked about promotion at someone else's detriment, expense. Yeah.
Putting someone else down so that it looks like you were lifted up.
That's right. That's right. So, so there's a little bit of that, but I just think in general, our cattle have gotten a lot better. We're learning how to feed them, and we are, you got to give the farmers credit. Our farmers are getting a lot better at growing more with less.
True.
With a lot more rules.
Yeah.
They got a lot more rules and a lot more sets of eyes on them than they used to.
Yeah.
And then just the ability to know, and the technology that we have to utilize and to know what's going in our cattle. That machine that I carry in my truck.
Yeah.
That gives us so much information before we ever dump feed in the bunk.
Yeah, and I think it's important too to talk about there are like professional doctorate animal nutritionists for a reason.
Yes.
Because of how delicate it is and how delicate the animal is maybe at that stage, and then just how quickly it can go pretty bad if you don't do it correctly.
Sure. So here's how I justify my existence in the world to my customers and my potential customers is that, am I educated and have I gone through the machine that is academia? Absolutely. I did that. I played that game. I did the things that they wanted me to do to become a scientist, but also that gave me the access to information, the skill to seek out information, the skill to interpret data, to collect, analyze, and interpret data. And then I pair that with my experience on ranches, working for people, doing the jobs that aren't fun. And I try to make sure that when I'm making an analytical decision with science, that it's going to work in the practical setting for that rancher. We have to have each other. And so I like to see myself as kind of the interpreter for the two.
Almost like a translator of all the data to the 65-year-old rancher.
I love to sit down and drink coffee with a 65-year-old rancher. And to me, I find it to be, it's kind of my responsibility.
Would you drink ranch fuel with him?
I would drink ranch fuel with him.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Plug.
And so I love to sit down and have conversations with those guys. But it's also my job. I've got to be able to go sit down with the hardcore scientists that are doing really, really basic biochemistry science and understand what they're doing and find ways to translate that to the 65-year-old rancher. And we've got to have all those people. And so that is, to me, that is why you need to include. It doesn't have to be me. I mean, we'll sit here and I'll tell everyone listening, R.A. Brown Ranch does not use Russell Carrell as their nutritionist, and that's okay. The nutritionist y'all used is someone that I highly respect with Livestock Nutrition Center. He's very good. My brother works for Livestock Nutrition Center.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he'll tell you he slings hammers and makes machines run at a feed mill. But he's very skilled at what he does, and the people that work for them, for y'all, also very skilled. Yeah. But y'all know, and you already said it, that you have to have specialized people. We are not, I think that everyone wants to think that we put ourselves on a pedestal. We don't. I'll just use myself as an example. I can only speak for myself. Became hyper interested in how can I go on a ranch and make an impact for that person today. And the quickest and easiest way for me to do that is through cattle's nutrition. Because when we think about it, typically the largest line item cost on a ranch or a feed yard is what? It's the feed going in that animal's mouth.
Yep.
Whether it be a TMR, it be a limiter feed out of a bunk feed or out of a bulk feeder, or it just be pasture. The largest line item expense on that ranch is the feed, is the nutrition. And the biggest influencer, I used to teach freshmen in colleges when I taught animal science labs. The biggest impact on profitability on a ranch is reproduction, the reproductive rate, your percent wean calf crop. That is going to have the biggest impact on your profitability. The thing that has the most influence on the percent wean calf crop typically is nutrition. Some people might argue, well, health and all that. Well, I can argue that the biggest impact on health is nutrition.
Yeah.
So we don't vaccinate cattle every day. We don't brand them every day. We don't breed on them every day. Those things eat every day.
You make a good point.
So
I don't disagree.
It's imperative that we are, and I think this is another thing that the industry's gotten really good is being precise and accurate with how we get that nutrition into that animal. And to me, that's the big thing on why we're producing more beef with less animals is we are using a lot of precision technology to get those cattle exactly what they need.
Yeah, you're talking like what size animal, what percent protein it needs, how much forage needs to be in there to protect its gut, what micronutrients and minerals are going to keep those bugs going.
Yep.
Keep
All
it
those
safe.
things.
I mean, all the things I don't know, but I just know enough to know that I need somebody else to help me.
Right. Yeah.
Pretty much.
And I'll tell you, we do not know everything. I run into things all the time that I don't know the answer to. And you know what I do? I pick up my phone and I call that network.
Yeah.
I call the other nutritionist I know. Hey, buddy, have you you've been in this 10 years longer than me. Have you run into this? Oh, yeah, I run into this. Do this, that, or, go read this paper, and it's got all the answers you need. It all goes back to we're all just humans, and we're not out to get you. We do this because we love it, and we want to help people. And that's
right.
that's what makes me want to get behind the wheel of a truck and drive all day.
Yeah.
Is knowing that when I get where I'm going, I'm going to have an opportunity to help someone.
Sure. Willie, you got any questions for him? I know you're not a cattle nutritionist.
No, I think it's really interesting listening, like, just being around for the past since February. And I've heard a lot, like, with Donald talking, like, there's two things that go into it. You have your genetics and you have your environment that's going to affect the overall product. And I think, like, nutrition being such a huge part of that environment, if not the most important part of the environment.
Right.
Because I think that's something that's overlooked, like, especially, like, you can have two identical bulls, genetically are identical, and you have one that is on a really good feed and one that's not on really good feed, and you're going to see a drastic difference between the two. And I think that's really cool. I haven't really thought much about that.
Right.
And now listening to you, like, that's pretty cool.
So I want to challenge you with something else then. I told you I push back on everything. Can we kind of skew how those bulls interact with their environment and kind of make them look better than what they are by the diet that they're on?
Oh, 100%. If you have like a high carb diet, I mean, that bull's going to look great coming out. And that's something I really like about, not to plug the Ari Brown Ranch, but they're really stingy.
He's been brainwashed.
Brainwashed that corn kills bulls?
12 hours of just constant repeat, no corn, no corn, no corn. But no, I think 100% we can skew that, because now you go to a sale or something like that and you're looking at these bulls' products, and this bull that's been fed a super high carb diet is going to look great. And then as soon as he's turned out to pasture and he's got to readjust to a diet that he's not accustomed to at all, his body's not ready for that, he's going to drop off. And people are going, well, what happened to this bull that I had? There's something wrong with him. He's sick. Well, he hasn't been eating anything that he's eaten out here in your pasture for the past 6-7 months.
So I think a lot of what you're saying is correct, but I'm real big on qualifying things and giving context. So, yeah, I mean, if you push bulls and you get them roly-poly fat, because here's the thing. Why are people getting these bulls roly-poly fat?
That's what people pay for.
People pay for them. I don't care because I hear it all the time.
I don't want a fat
I
bull.
don't want a fat bull. Don't you get that bull too fat. And I'll tell you, the fattest roly-poly thing walks in the ring, hands start flying.
Yes, sir.
That fat's pretty colored.
And so it's a balance because, you can, because like my favorite thing is Donald's real big on no corn.
Yes,
in
sir.
the diet. And I respect that. We can get energy to those cattle in a lot of different ways.
Yes,
There's
sir.
100 different ways to skin that cat. That's the East Texas.
Right.
100 different ways to skin that cat.
I've never heard that before.
Well,
I like
it's,
that.
it's referring to a catfish, not a cat. In case anyone.
Oh, I didn't know that
It's
either.
catfish. Yeah.
How about that?
got
You grew up.
catfish in
You
Maryland.
grew up on a lake in East Texas, like I did.
You know that.
Shoot, I'm gonna talk to my friends around the Bay in Maryland. I've never heard that before.
Yeah. So, because there's anyway, you can get those bulls what they need, but I feed a lot. Like I do a lot of nutrition for a lot of people. And
Yes, sir.
We feed bulls some corn
Mm,
because that is just for their operation, their outfit.
Yes,
That is
sir.
the best. That is the best way we
for what
can
they're doing.
for what those because those bulls do need
Yes,
some
sir.
energy.
And I understand that too. Everyone's situation is going to be unique.
Right, but you are correct in that we can inflate some of some of the genetics of that bull
Yes, sir.
by cramming energy down his throat,
Yes, sir.
and so it's a balancing act there.
For sure.
But that's kind of I don't want to get too far off in the weeds on that.
Yeah.
because
Yeah, corn's not bad. Just too much corn.
too much corn, too much of anything is
Yes,
bad
sir.
because
Yes,
I see a lot of cattle out in the country. They go, oh well, we just this is all forage diet. Well, these bulls are gaining these bulls aren't gaining enough. Like
Yeah,
I need
yeah.
you to put something in it. Like
Mhm.
doesn't have to be corn, but we can put some soil pellets or
There's something we can do to make these
like
cattle.
we
be
need
more
to push them
efficient.
a little harder.
Yes, sir.
There's an example, a set of heifers that I was working with, and the producer said that his heifers weren't breeding up enough, and so I went to doing the math, and the cattle were gaining 1.5 pounds per day, and they were starting out as 5 weights and getting 90 days on feed. So you used to do simple math.
Yeah.
Those cattle were, I think when I came down to it, they were trying to AI on 650-pound heifers.
Golly.
I'm like, hey, that's not going to work. So what did we do? We added a little bit of corn, and we just pushed the weight into those heifers a little bit, and we preg checked them, and they preg checked them and got back with me, and we picked up a lot more pregnancies because those cattle, they needed the energy to
Yes,
kind
sir.
of further their life cycle. So there's a lot of different ways to do things. I'm just a person, but
Yes, sir.
I like to think that I can use my successes and my screw ups to help someone else.
Yes, sir.
So I think the genetics versus the environment is a huge thing. It's funny you mentioned that. When I came here, so before the podcast, we were looking on Facebook memories, and 10 years ago, or 9 years ago, I guess, I was with an A&M group that came and they did a ranch and feedlot tour, and I came through here.
And they're coming here this
They're
weekend.
coming here this weekend. And so Donald's big thing is everyone wants an R.A. Brown cat. It is a hot commodity as a student. And he said, look, I'm going to give 2 hats for the 2 questions that I like the best. And the question that I asked Donald that got me a hat was, how do y'all tell the difference in performance? How do you tell if it's the genetics or the environment? How are y'all determining that? And he's like, that's great. He's like, here's a hat. So I love that. That's kind of where being around Donald. That's where your mind's at too.
You've been listening.
You have been listening.
I've been trying to ask some really
evident.
good questions whenever we go on these trips.
Tell you, I thought about, so you were on the podcast a few weeks ago and you talked about riding around the truck with Donald for 16 hours. That scares me to death. The thought of him asking me questions. Like, I thought a dissertation defense was hard. That man asking me questions in a truck for 16. Well, thankfully, he's probably so busy that he doesn't.
He's on the
want
phone quite a bit.
He was on the
He is,
phone
yeah.
probably about 75% of the time.
Well, that still leaves like 4 hours
Yeah,
of him
yeah.
asking me questions, and I think I'd rather defend my dissertation again than have to think
Think
that
that
hard.
hard.
Yeah.
No, I really do, though. I look forward to any time I get a chance to be around. I was really
Pick his
looking forward to
brain.
that road trip because I knew that, all right, well, I'm going to get a lot of time to pick his brain. I know he's going to pick my brain, like I was preparing for that as well. But I just love the information, especially this discussion that we're having here, which I don't really know if I answered your question or that was what
I don't even remember my question, so you're good.
Russell, if you could tell the listeners Maybe they know something about nutrition, maybe they don't. If you could tell them one thing, if they didn't remember anything else today, what would you want them to remember about cattle nutrition?
You're going to love this.
Okay.
Let the grass win.
Let the grass win.
Let the grass win. We are, especially in the cow-calf, we are grass farmers.
Yep.
Our natural resource is our grass. Our mechanism of harvest is a cow. We are collecting value on our land resources and from nutrients in the ground and God's good sunshine. And we are creating value through beef. You said it the other day, and I say the same thing. Like, why do you get excited about cattle? They turn sunshines into steak, man.
Yeah.
They turn grass into steak. And I like says, I'll do some stuff with kids and like sunshine to steak.
Sunshine.
We are turning sunshine into steak.
Turning solar energy.
That's right.
Forming it into a high-quality protein.
So I tell you, in terms of cattle nutrition, let the grass win, and don't be afraid to ask questions. We're just people.
Yep. Yeah. No, good stuff. Hey, thanks so much for being on the podcast today.
It's been a lot of fun, guys.
Yeah.
And I am so happy for y'all and looking forward to what y'all do. Y'all got something special here, and I'm just tickled to be here.
You bet. You want to do like a rodeo sign out for us?
Well,
I mean, I'll sign us out at the end. But.
So there's I've been listening, and so
Yeah.
there's one other thing that you do that I want to do.
Oh yeah,
It's
what's
I'll
your favorite
share
Bible verse?
My favorite Bible verse. My favorite Bible verse is Romans 8:31. It's short.
Ooh.
It's simple.
That's right. Okay, 8:28 is one of mine.
Yeah.
So
Romans 8:31. If God stands with us, who can be against us? And when we're down in that hole, regardless of how deep your hole is, if it's the deepest your hole's been, it's the deep. Like if it's the worst thing that's happened to you, it's the worst thing that's happened to you. Just know that God's standing with us, and if we have faith in Him and we have faith in His plan for us, that if we do our part, He's going to take care of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I try to walk with every day.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
But yeah, I also have a song that I want you to play while I do my rodeo sign off.
Now
We got in trouble.
we did.
What?
I know.
They copyrighted us, and then
I was looking
banned the video.
forward.
I know. What would have been your song?
It was going to be Burning for You by the Blue Oyster Cult.
Burning for You. I'd play it, but I'd get in trouble. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, that would be okay. Well,
We can listen to it after, but we'll have to
sorry.
use this. Yeah, we'll have to use this
plagiarism. Like what-
plagiarism. What
well.
is plagiarism? It's exposure for their song.
if
right?
you just cite it in Journal of Animal Science format, you can
think they'll-
you can do that. That's what they taught me in grad school.
just
But anyway, so I've been practicing. I'm gonna
okay.
try.
Okay, all right, here we go. Let's see.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the cowboy from Nacogdoches, Texas, and buck and shoot number 8, the big fella, Russell Carrell. We thank y'all for joining us today at the Registered Ranching Podcast. So, Tucker, you want to finish it, or can I finish it?
I'll finish it off, but you
Oh,
can sign out. You sign out.
signing off. So, stay classy and ranch on them.
Bingo, dude. That was
right.
good. That gave me chills.
I
Willie,
think he killed it.
dude, that was another good. That's the best one yet. That was the
Just
best one
setting
yet.
the bar for someone to be better.
Whoa, why'd the music stop? Who did that? Dr. Russell Carrell. Thanks again for joining us. That was good. That's Registered Ranching, man. That's what it's about. That's what the pod's about. Willie, we're on to the next one.
We're on to the next one.
We're going to keep Registered Ranching. We're going to keep wearing ag gear and drinking ranch fuel.
That's right.
And we got a couple places to go. You can find where we're going on our YouTube, on Instagram. Check us out, Tucker Brown RAB and Registered Ranching. And until next time, God bless. Y'all stay classy. But remember,
Ranch on them.
ranch on 'em. Woo!